What's up, folks? Casual Dad here with another Warhammer Combat Cards Warlord guide. And we're going to revisit Ahriman, Supreme Arch Sorcerer of the Thousand Suns, post 2024, spring 2024 rework. And the rework didn't necessarily change his fundamental stats, right? So he's still 31 points, still has the same hit points, same abilities, both primary and secondary, of both the Psychic Link, so he's a more powerful Psyker for the more of the friendly Psykers he has on the board, and he has Warp Surge, so when you drop him, he will do direct psychic damage at the start. As on the turn that he's deployed, he will hit once after deployment. But what fundamentally changed about him, and he's also got, of course, if you do range, he's got the Psychic ready. We'll go ahead and be a little bit more thorough because this will be replacing my previous guide for Ahriman to reflect the current change. The biggest thing that changed is that his Bolt of Change literally changed. We're going to say change a lot because change is fickle. But so previously, this is the third version of this that I've seen. The first version, it was random. It would be either anything within the range of 1 to 20. Could be 5, could be 7, could be 13. You didn't know. And then it was changed, so let's backtrack a bit. So the ability, the way it works is at the start of each player's turn, either one of your cards gets healed for either gets healed, or one of your opponent's cards takes damage. Now, the first version of this was a random number between 1 and 20. The second version of it was either 1 or 20. Both of those fell pretty flat, right? So the first one was really fun because it was totally chaotic, but there was zero consistency. You could do 1 damage to an opponent every single turn, and then have that be, of course, their one Berserk card and really ruin your day. But at first, it just never felt impactful, right? And then the change to make it narrower, it was either 1 or 20, so it was either the high or the low, was much better, to where you had a lot more of those impactful turns, but you still had a lot of cases where you did the 1, and 1 damage or 1 healing is totally worthless. It was just little enough that it did nothing except occasionally ramp up someone's Berserk. It doesn't clear shields, it doesn't kill an Akaran card. 1 damage just doesn't do any difference except for those extremely rare cases where you hit that 1 in 9 chance to do 1 damage to a card that's living on 1 hit point, which never happens. So the change to 5 is really hugely impactful, and you can feel this all throughout the game, where 30 is a big, big swing. That is higher than a lot of cards will get from a Medicae, or higher than a lot of cards even do in damage on the healing or the damage side. And the 5 is still something, so it's really good, where 5 is like a little bit above rank 1 regen, which 1 wasn't even close to that. And the 5 is a little bit of extra damage. So this feels dramatically more impactful, and that's really important, right? Because this damage goes under shields, so it doesn't even clear a shield. Doesn't clear a shield, doesn't clear a Morven Vol damage reduction. It really is not impactful aside from a straight change to hit points, so making the number higher is really important for Ahriman. So I do think that he's in a way stronger spot because of that, and the games I've been playing since that change, he has been way more consistent. I do find him a really pretty great warlord, and he's actually the Chaos Warlord I'm teching up right now, and I'm sitting at over 3,000 trophies with Ahriman, which is a huge change. So we're going to take a look at the deck, we're going to play a couple games, I'm just going to talk through this. Excuse me. So looking at the deck, I'm using the full 200 points. Pretty much any Ahriman deck has to start around the Lord of Change. More than any other Chaos deck, and that is saying something because this is a staple card of the entire faction. So you've got that Psionic Blast, which is really huge, especially on that high base psychic damage with the high hit points, but of course you pay for it for the high points cost. This card is amazing, and especially if you get a couple ranks of regen, that stacks with Ahriman's ability really, really well. Then next up, we've of course got your cheap Medicae. I don't think this is the cheapest Medicae anymore, but it's my cheapest one that I have at Medicae rank 3. I like the bulk of hit points for the cost, and I like that he's got the melee and has a way for, if I'm doing Psychic, he will be a defensive piece to clog up a lane and also reduce incoming range damage. So it's a defensive piece in many different ways. And right off the bat, I wanted to highlight that with Ahriman's change trait, Medicae and Regen are extremely powerful with his ability, because any defensive ability is going to be supercharged because there's always the potential that you're going to get bulk healing that will top it off. So if you have Medicae, Regen, and Ahriman's ability all together, your cards become way more durable, which is hugely important for Ahriman because he tends to prefer thin decks of elite expensive cards, and he himself is glassy. So you can run out of momentum very, very easily with Ahriman. Rounding out the deck, I've got a couple other pieces. In the 40-point slot, there are a couple other options. I fell on this guy. He doesn't have a hugely meaningful psychic attack, but he does have one. So it's anti-infantry, so it does do burst damage against infantry targets, which are very common. And then also he does have it, so it still combos with my other pieces, and that will really help clear shields or clear injured cards. He's been really good, even doing the psychic damage, even though it's not very much. But the big reason this guy shines is the combination of very high base hit points, plus Ahriman's ability and Medicae to heal him up, and then also that high melee damage, topped off by anti-infantry. So if you need to take down infantry quickly and switch from psychic attack to melee attack, this is a really good swingy piece to help you clear stuff and get through enemy decks more quickly. Super strong. I've really appreciated having him in the deck. And it's made me really come around on anti-infantry in general, and particularly on him, because I thought I would miss the fear change more. But in Ahriman decks, where you're getting the extra damage and extra healing there, he's been really effective, which I've been really happy about. Next up, we have the Whisperhead, and this is the weak link in my deck because he's only got regen rank 2. But as this sucker gets higher level, like when I get him to level 9, it is on. That rank 3 regen and the good hit points for the cost will really help him stay on the table longer, especially topped off with Ahriman's ability. But he just, for 13 points, he's a very powerful Psyker, which I really appreciate. And if for whatever reason you end up doing a range to ready, because you don't want to do Psychic for whatever reason, he can then Psychic buff my following turns, although that's extremely rare. He's mostly in here because it's a 13-point card that combos well, and I personally think that he has the punch to justify the somewhat basic stats, I suppose. But that regen makes this guy very, very sticky, and what I do a lot is I'll put him in a lane that's fairly safe, where there's something that does very little damage or isn't likely to be attacking, say the one melee attacker in a heavy Psyker or a heavy range deck, to have him like bank some extra wounds so he sticks on the table longer, and it's just a giant tar pit. Very good for the 13 points. Similarly, I've got the Gorder Bon in there, incredibly efficient melee attacker for the points, gives me the opportunity to debuff opposing melee, has Fear to clog up a lane plus the hit points, combined with Medicae and Ahriman's ability. This sucker really holds down a lane well. And just you may notice the consistent thing is that my secondary attack type is melee. I actually have a pretty potent melee punch between these two, and these two are no slouch in melee either. So we're going to play some games, but I just wanted to go ahead and highlight that, where my melee attack over the course of the deck is actually almost the same as my psychic attack. So this can easily fall back on melee to kind of give me a chance to recover and beef up my psychic attack, but then also as a way to deal with psychic decks or places where I don't want to use my psychic attack for whatever reason. So we're going to go ahead and deploy. Again, I'm at 3k, and we're deep enough in the season there where that 3k trophy mark is quite challenging, so we'll see how this goes. But again, I've been really loving Ahriman this season. Ooh, that's not good. And this is a somewhat slower deck, so you deploy second, which does give you the opportunity to avoid things like that. And that. So we'll go ahead and Medicae this sucker up. That's a nasty lineup. He's got... Ooh. And I apologize for the very, very rapid animations. That is definitely... What's your base attack? 93? Much not good. We got a bad matchup right out of the gate. None of these guys do melee, so I'm going to go ahead and do that a bit to try to soften them up. But you can already see those... Oh, man. You can already see those very impactful hits from Ahriman's ability. And I'll try to keep a better track of the numbers here and watch for that. So there was the -5. Boom. And I could have probably done more Psychic there, but I'm charging that up for whatever comes next. Okay, and so the bulk of what I just went up against is... Ooh. Well, that's not good. But, like I said, I was just charging up my Psychic attack in the hopes that it would be impactful here, and I don't think it's going to save me. I think he's got me. Full fruit. Yep, nope, he got me. That was a nasty deck. All right, so, and that's exactly highlights the gamble with an Ahriman deck, is you're running a thinner deck with multiple over 40 cost cards. You are vulnerable to Big Game Hunter, and particularly vulnerable to Illic. That was a rare Illic match and one of the worst possible matchups for the deck. So we'll play one more. We'll see how it goes. I did just kind of want to highlight the components of the deck and why it works, and then we'll see if I can get a win in here too. Because I've just hit the point where my win rate is a little bit closer to 3 out of 5 instead of like 5 out of 6. All right, what do we got? Oh, that's not good. All right, just throwing me the hardest possible matches at me. But this is a great example of a time where you can fall back on that melee attack, because this is one of those moments where a Voldus deck will be hilariously unwilling to attack with Psychic. So I actually have an edge where if he does Psychic, I will have a defensive advantage. And if he doesn't, I can just wail on him with melee. So right there, cleared his board, almost. Haven't lost a card yet. Who do we put in here? Ooh, that wasn't good. I did also learn recently that the AI is more likely to move a card on the flanks, or on the middle rather, than it is on the flanks. So if you have a card in the flanks, ooh, what are we gonna do here? He's got 47 because of fear. And I may have this, because Ahriman himself does so much damage, he's not going to kill these. Oh, he is. Oh, no, okay. So Ahriman should be able to finish off Voldus himself. Between Psychic, Warp Surge, and then his own base Psychic attack, I've got him. Okay. So I was able to clear that out. An extremely fast match. Ooh, nasty. And that's the thing about it, is Ahriman is very glassy, but he is also very much a cannon as well. So he can clear out some warlords. Of course, someone sticky like Akaran is more of a problem, so you really want to keep your Lord of Change alive for those. But that was a heavy, heavy Psychic deck with both Tigurius and Njal the Stormcaller. So with both of those on the board, that's a really tough wall to fight. And that I didn't actually have to kill either of them to win that game was pretty important. And I am going to be doing a redo of Voldus as well, because he's in a very different place than he has been recently. All right, sweet. So like I said, put this guy here in a safe spot so he can build up some extra health. Ooh. And it is funny where this is a very aggressive deck, but Ahriman now is a little bit more of an attrition warlord. So just to throw it in there, this is one of the more classic ways to build him, to really lean on his psychic powers and also have the backup of melee. But the alternative way to build him is to really lean into his flexibility and just use all of your like 15 to 20 point cards that are very durable across the board. And that's another really effective way to play this. And most of these drones are infantry, just to go ahead and highlight. Oh, well, that one's not. But most of them are. Yeah, and so you can see that Ahriman's ability is being more impactful. It's so fast, I keep skipping it. But that was 30 on that middle drone, which is going to make a big difference. Another 30 on the guy on the right. How much more does he have left? Yeah, we'll go ahead and keep doing that range debuff for the defense. And see, doing a lot of those extra 30 damages is really, really good. Ooh, man, that hurt. See if I can take this thing out. Womp womp, that wasn't good. But then I've comfortably got this. I say that, watch me not have this at all. No, I've comfortably got this. It's just me and Darkstrider. Whew, man, so that was a somewhat scary there. But then we absolutely got this one with just that blast there. These games are going extremely quickly. I apologize. I will do one more actually slowed down a little bit, so we're not going to see it as fast. But yeah, so going back to the mid-range with Ahriman, he's really, really good if you just go with your shielded guys, your regen guys, the guys that are decent in both melee and ranged. Some of the more economical points-wise ones. So looking at Gordor Bond, for example, is my very economical piece in here. If you leaned on that, where all of your cards were in like the 20 to 25 point range, where you lean on the ones that have a nice balance of stats or extremely high stats in either ranged or melee, Ahriman's ability now is extremely good, especially if you fill with fear, regen, and Medicae, whatever you have those of. So he would do really well. Let's actually look at that real quick. So if we're looking at kind of the stuff you could put in the deck, if you're just looking in kind of this band here, where we've got a bunch of these beastmen popping in, if you have these guys at a decent level, they're very, very cheap and take long enough to bring down, that they could really benefit from Ahriman's ability and be tough to chew through, and then also lean on having a couple more expensive cards. Like anything here, the new cultists, some of these, their hit points are somewhat low. That's a good one. Yeah, so this guy in here has good hit points for the cost. Yeah, this would be a great one, and has that fear again. So the hit points and fear combo is really nice, plus your Medicaid and your taunt. Of course, this guy has a really strong one, no surprise at all. So you could do something similar to what I did, where you go kind of heavy hitters, but then fill with ranged. So ranged is your secondary attack, or again, just go with kind of your efficiency pieces around the 20-point range. So like this guy for a little taunt, Medicaid, melee ready, anything in this band, like the 20 to 30 or 20 to 40 range in Chaos is actually quite strong. And these guys would love a little extra healing buffed in there. Like this guy with the regen and the healing, this guy with the endless. You could really make a nasty Ahriman deck that's not Psychers. So don't limit yourself entirely to Psychers. But of course, he himself is dramatically better with Psychers on the board, but also most of the time, you don't want to deploy Ahriman. He hits really hard, but he's so glassy that it better be a real close game if Ahriman hits the board. This is a phenomenal matchup because their primary attack stat is going to be melee, and I will be able to hit back at least as hard as they're hitting me. It is also a bad matchup, though, because of the explosive ability that they've got going on there. Okay, we're going to watch for that Ahriman hit. I said I was going to slow that down. So that 30, that was a bunch of free damage. That was really nice. Ooh, man, when you slow to normal play speed, it's so slow now that I've gotten used to the fast one. That doesn't feel like normal speed. There we go. Oof. And this guy's anti-infantry and a bunch of melee. So and you can see that healing coming in here. So between Ahriman's ability topping things off, both healing and damage, and then also the Lord of Change plus regen, you just have a lot of constant pressure that works really, really effectively over the course of a longer game. Oh, nice. And that was still 5, but 5 plus that regen, it just gives me rank, like, instead of rank 2 regen, I now have rank 3 regen, which is awesome. And this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. Oh, God. It just almost died. Okay. Ooh. Doesn't trigger in a Warlord. We'll see what we get here. I may lose this one, too. Oh, man. Okay. Oh, but he's got target acquired. I should have left that way. Ooh, that's much worse. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. But he's got me comfortably. Ouch. Okay. Anyway, I do still think that Ahriman is much stronger than he has been. He's still a huge gamble, and you still have some really bad matchups here. I'm proud that I won the Voldus one, but the other two, that was some nasty matches. But anyway, so yeah, really good on the Psychic. Very good with just kind of a mid-rangey mixed deck where you have a combination of ranged and melee at a nice, efficient price point. Ahriman's ability is better the longer it's on the board. It's one of those things where that free health and damage will benefit you over the course of a game. If you want to go offense, Psionic Blast and Barrage are very powerful there because they will help you push the extra damage through. If you want to go defensive, that Regen, Fear, Medicaid are really strong too. So you can take a mix of both of those, with or without Psychic. Ahriman himself at the 31 price range is reasonably cheap, so there's a lot you can build around that. But he doesn't bring enough to the table with his own personal stats. Like, again, he's not a Warlord you want on the table unless you are already winning. So you really kind of need to lean on his ability a bit. So usually I'm able to keep the Lord of Change alive most of the game. My deck is hurt quite a bit by not having any taunt, which is something I'm kind of re-examining now that my win rate has gone down. But I got to 3K, no problem whatsoever. 3,000 trophies with him, and it was a very effective run. So I still feel very strongly that the rework has been very effective. Ahriman is in the best place he's been since I've been playing the game. But yeah, still, there's definitely some experimenting to do. So cheers, hope that was helpful. Good luck out there.